Welcome to the Pediatric Dietitian Podcast, where we, Jen and Danielle, discuss all things related to nutrition for children of all ages so that you, the parents, can learn practical, evidence-based solutions to nourish your child long-term. Hello, and welcome back to the Pediatric Dietitian. Today we are here together. This is Jen and Danielle. We're here to talk.
What's up, guys?
What's up? How's it going? We're here to talk about picky eating today. We're going to talk about what's normal, what's not normal, when to seek help, and then we're going to share some fun stories about our patients and our family members just to kind of give you more ideas.
They may not say that they're fun. They might be like, no, that's my real life crap that
True.
I'm doing.
They're like, hey, don't share that.
No, but yeah, we'll totally share real stories at the end of this, so stick around for the end. But yeah, let's get into it. Picky eating, we hear this from a lot, mostly I think for the younger kids,
Yeah,
right? Because I would say the majority of kids do grow out of most of their pickiness, but not all, because sometimes you're not doing the right interventions. So that's what we're here to talk about. Like, what can you guys do to intervene as early as possible to prevent and reverse, right? But yeah, so let's start with like, what's the difference between normal picky eating, like a typical part of development as a toddler, as a first-time eater, and then what's like very severe, medically concerning to the point where you should be talking to the pediatrician, a dietitian, other specialists, potentially occupational therapists and behavioral therapists. So,
Yeah. So some things that are normal, obviously kids are going to go through phases. There's also like certain points when they're like going through growth spurts. I feel like they eat so much more, so much less during like certain periods of their life. You know, so things like that is normal. A kid just saying like, no, I don't like broccoli, whatever. Like,
they don't have to like broccoli.
Yeah, true,
you know, like
true.
if it's something that you as the parent really love, they don't have to love it.
True.
There have totally been parents that have talked to me that have been trying certain things, hummus, broccoli, cucumbers over and over, and I'm like, just can you give up on that one? Like, your child did try it actually multiple times.
Yeah.
They actually did taste it, and it's like 6 months later, just give it up, because it's different than they haven't even tasted it. Now, like, at least in this stage in their life, at least at this age, we know that they do not like this. So move on.
Entitled to have a few foods you don't like. I hate olives. I will not touch an olive to this day. Like, as a grown woman, like, I can admit it.
A very, very unpopular thing for me is I don't like watermelon.
Oh,
yeah, it's
really?
like unpopular because it's most loved fruit
by kids.
It's a texture thing. It's interesting because I'm not a texture person in general. It's just that one.
That's so funny.
But I don't mind the flavor. I'll have like watermelon juice.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, such an LA thing. Anyway, so yeah. Typical picky eating can more so evolve around these ages of 2 to 5 to 6 almost, right? And it can start as early as like 18 months, where they start becoming opinionated. They are learning their preferences. They're also exhibiting control, and they love the no word when they're super young, right? So like, you only have so much control in your life as a 2-year-old, and if you get to say no to something, more power to you. Okay, so there's that aspect, right?
Throwing. They enjoy throwing the food.
Oh my God, so much waste. So much going to the dog.
It's just a micro drop situation. Like, I'm not going to eat this.
It's like, wow, I just spent all that time. Okay, fun. So there's that. There's constant changing preference. Something they didn't like 2 weeks ago or 2 years ago, they could be liking now, and then vice versa. Yeah. They loved the eggs and sausage yesterday, and today you served it for breakfast, and they're like, again, dumping it on the floor, and you're like, cool, I thought I had something that worked. It's a normal part of growing up for some kids. Not every kid will do that. You'd be like, well, my first kid didn't do this. They ate everything great. And then the next one is like teaching you how to be a parent for the first time all over again. So you can't keep up, right? Yeah. Normal. Very normal. Okay, nothing to be worried about, especially if their growth is good. At these toddler years, they will tend to fluctuate with their intake of calories overall. So they might have 2 good meals in a day, unusual to have 3, and they might eat like a bird one day and like as much as a grown man the next day. And it essentially evens out in the week and should be reflected in a pretty normal, good growth chart, right? You don't have to worry if they don't like every single vegetable, if they keep changing their mind. You have a normal child.
Yeah, totally. And definitely I would say just keep trying different ways of making something. Like, You know, boiled broccoli might not be their favorite. I've been making broccoli tots a lot, and they're a big hit. It's like obviously more time consuming, but you know, if it gets the food in, like, it's helpful. And also like different textures, like ground beef versus steak. My son hates steak, but loves ground meat. Meatballs, like all that kind of stuff. Like we do that constantly just to get the protein in.
Yeah, exactly. Good source of iron and zinc too. So I agree. The texture changes can be rough. For a lot of toddlers, that's typical, where they have more of a dislike of the red meat or the harder meats. You know, it's totally
tougher to chew.
It is. They're like, what am I supposed to do with this? I just want to eat, so not have to.
Even though that was like one of our first foods that we tried with him, we did baby led weaning, and we gave him a piece of steak, and he was like gnawing on it because he was excited. He was like, this is the first time I'm getting to eat something in general.
Yeah, and he got all that flavor, but now he's like, I want to chew and swallow it.
Yeah, and now he's like, I got an opinion. It's not my jam.
I'll also see some dislikes of eggs. Yeah.
Eggs, like, I think it's a phase thing. Even my sister has said, like, her son will want eggs every single day, and then all of a sudden he's like, nope, I'm done. And then you got to take a break. Honestly, it helps to take like a couple weeks off. Don't give him the eggs. Don't try. It's just going to go to the dog anyway, so you might as well just not waste it. And then, when you come back to it, maybe they'll be more open to it.
So those are all very common things, nothing to be worried about. I would, during that time, like you said, I totally agree with taking breaks, moving on to other things. And also, when you do find things that they like, be very careful to not serve that every single day.
Don't overdo it. That's so true.
So continue.
Then they get burnt
variety. out. And then you're going to lose that food 3 months from now, and then you'll be like, well, back to the drawing board. So the variety from the get-go is important.
And my thing too, like, is always offer fruit, vegetable, protein, starch, whatever. Try to make a balanced meal. Even if they're not going to touch that broccoli, you got to put something on the plate so that they get used to it just being there and not like they're not upset by the sight of the broccoli,
and a lot of other countries don't deal with this same.
No, and it really does kind of suck. Like, I will be honest, like, certain restaurants you go and, I'm going to get them a kid-sized portion, kids meal, and it's always the same 3 things. And sometimes I'm like, I'd kind of like something different versus like, I don't always want to get chicken nuggets or a burger, Sometimes it's nice to have options, and some places really don't have any other option.
Just give them some of mom and dad's food. So order from the regular menu and then have leftovers.
Save some money too.
So a lot of typical picky eating kids will grow out of, but you can totally make it more possible to grow out of it by implementing these concepts of don't cater to them, right? Like, they just all of a sudden stopped eating eggs or their favorite vegetable or fruit. Don't get up in the middle of the meal and start making them something else. And also, I recommend being very careful not to present the food in a specific way. For instance, like, I'm going to cut the broccoli in this specific shape, or, tear things up in a specific way. It's different when they're like, I don't know, 8 months old and you are having to shred the chicken, right? But I mean, like, we're talking about like a 2 or 4 or 6-year-old, and you're like, oh, well, I know he likes all the crust off the sandwich. Let him eat it up until the crust, and then he will leave the crust.
That's true. You're kind of like encouraging that particularness, and then it's only going to escalate from there.
Yes. And they should, essentially, you want them to figure out how to problem solve, because they're not always going to have you there to take the crust off. And then they're going to have a breakdown because I'm used to having my sandwich with no crust. Just let them pick things out. Don't say anything about them picking things out, because they are problem solving. How do I make this food in a way that I will eat it? Awesome that you're picking things out so that you will eat the rest of it. And one day they might stop picking things out.
We're also going through a big phase of he likes everything big. So like, he doesn't want a small little like piece of quesadilla. He wants a big burrito, which is awesome. I'm fine with it. There's no worries about that. It's just kind of funny that he's like big strawberry instead of like a bite of strawberry.
Right. Wow.
It's kind of more fun to like have like a big thing you have to use 2 hands for.
The other thing to be cautious of is not preemptively saying, oh, you're not going to like this. You know, like, mommy, what's that? Can I have some? Oh, you don't. I mean, it's different if it's like
alcohol. I was thinking like mommy's juice is not for you.
Yeah. So besides that though, even if they haven't liked it in the past and you know your kid and you know you're going to be right, it's great actually that they are being curious, that they're wanting to try things. And even if it's something they didn't like last time they tried it, they will be changing their minds and their opinions, and their taste preferences do evolve. So give them the chance. Give them the constant opportunity to try new things. If they don't have that opportunity presented to them very frequently, multiple times a week, then they could very well have this picky phase for way longer or maybe not even grow out of it. Speaking of that, I went on this trip to Costa Rica with my husband and a bunch of like random people that he works with, and it was like during COVID, so it was just like you can work remotely whenever from whatever place. This place is paid for. You guys want to join? I was like, cool. And it was like the biggest group of nerds ever. I didn't know any of them, and they're like just computer dudes like slathered in sunscreen. It was hilarious and great, and they were very nice people, but they were so picky. They were like my 6-year-old picky eating patients grown up. Oh, no. And it was kind of fascinating and sad because there's like this amazing local cuisine, and they were so put off by it. They were like, I think we're going to go get a burger.
Oh,
and I was like, what?
You're only in Costa Rica.
It's paella. Like, oh my God, you have to try it. It's so good. And they were not even like willing to try it as a grown adult. So that was kind of sad. And I'm like, oh no, this is the future of some of my patients if we don't intervene.
True.
You know? So like, you don't want the first time your child to see a new food to be at their dinner plate. You want to give them many opportunities prior to get familiar with it, get used to the idea of trying it, get curious about it. You know how they're like, what's that green speck? Like, how did you find the one piece of cilantro that didn't cut up small enough? You know? But if they were in the kitchen helping and adding the green specks of cilantro or whatever, then they would know what it is. Yes, they still might not try it. They still might not want to eat it, but at least they understand to a degree what it is, how it got to look this way, what was it smelling like when we were cooking it, all these things. And they may not try it the first time, but if you can get them consistently helping in the kitchen. Consistently, I mean like every single week. It doesn't need to be an hour. It could be 5 minutes of like, I cut up all the cilantro or broccoli. We keep saying broccoli.
Washing through,
and
washing
then like
broccoli.
put this in the bowl. Or like I measure the rice and dump it in the pot or something very simple. It could be that simple.
Exactly. And like, I think what you're saying too is like them being like curious about your food. Like even if it's not really something you're excited to give them, obviously don't give them something harmful. You know, if it's something like that might be a little too spicy for them, but they're willing to try it, like let them try it. Even if they take half a bite and spit it out, it's better than them like thinking about like, oh, this is not a food that I'm allowed to eat. Right.
And you could just tell them it's spicy. You want to try it? Yeah. Just like warn
them.
So
it's not going to hurt.
Right. I mean, it might. But then, yes, let them spit it out. Don't say anything about the fact that they're spitting it out. Just good job trying it, bud.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Good job trying it.
So same concept in terms of, I don't agree with like when you're trying to get your kid to eat more of this or that, saying things like, try it, take another bite. Like you have to eat 3 more bites before you get up. I know a lot of parents do this.
It's so tempting. It's really hard, honestly.
It's like all your
it's very hard.
And I do know that this can work in the short term to a degree for some kids. Yes, they got the 3 bites of spinach in or whatever, but like they felt pressured. The meal wasn't fun. They're going to continue not wanting to come to the dinner table. I wonder why. You have to be like, no, we're having dinner, kicking and screaming. I'm trying to play. I'm finishing my show. But like, it's not fun for them. Then if every time they're coming to the dinner table, they're feeling so forced to eat stuff they don't like. I remember this one time. One of my nieces, I have like 14 nieces and nephews, but one of them, she's like 5 years old, and her dad served her dinner that was a homemade meal, and she tasted it and was like, ew, this is gross. And he was like, well, that's all we have to eat. Usually, that is what I say to say. Like, as long as your kid is growing well, doesn't have extreme neurodivergent issues and extreme oral aversions, which we'll talk about in a second, that is all we have to eat, bud. Like, sorry, I'm not going to get up and make you a whole separate meal. It just perpetuates a big problem, okay? So, like, you need to learn to problem solve. So she was like, it's not my fault that it's gross. I was like,
she got you.
It's like, that was a very smart response. I was like, that it isn't yours.
Well, what you've said in the past, which I really like, is like, what can you add to this to make it taste better? Which I think is such a good idea to put it back on the kid. Yeah. My son is obsessed with ranch. Usually if I add ranch to something, he will dip it. Great. Sometimes it sounds like a disgusting combination, but if they're willing to eat it, it doesn't hurt.
More power to them. Yeah, a lot of parents will ask that, right? Like, is it okay? Because he's dousing it in ketchup.
Yeah, I'm like,
what is the other option? He doesn't eat? I don't know. No. It's different if we're talking about more of an extreme circumstance like obesity and diabetes and things like this, right? But we're just talking about the typical kids, and if they're in a phase where everything needs to have ranch flavor on it,
a dressing,
let's do it. We don't need to micromanage everything, and especially with eating, that is where there should be the least arguments between you guys as parents and children. Yeah. You should let them have a little bit of freedom within reason. Deciding what ends up on the plate, they can decide how much of it they're eating, and if adding ranch means they eat their vegetables every day, I don't think that's bad.
Fine with that.
There are obviously
buy a good ranch,
exactly. There's healthier versions of ranch. You can make it too, but I'm not doing that. But there's healthier versions of ranch.
I also just realized that ranch is essentially mayonnaise. Oh, did you know that?
No. Because I've never made it.
Oh, yeah, I've never made it either. But I'm pretty sure it's
mayonnaise.
And
there's good mayonnaise options out there now, made with avocado oil and stuff. So cool, go for it.
No seed oils.
Yeah, come on, no seed oils. By the way, I just love this sweatshirt. We'll
refer back to a podcast from a few months ago. I know, we'll link that.
There is a whole series we did on seed oils, but I just love this cute sweatshirt. I'll link it. Okay, what is not normal for picky eating? When should we be kind of worried and escalating this?
Yeah, the biggest thing is if kids are cutting out an entire food group, dairy is just out the window, or fruits are out the window, meat is out the window. Yeah. That's the time when you really need to get some professional help just to make sure that your child doesn't have a deficiency. Meat is very good, and obviously iron, B12, all those things. We just want to make sure we're hitting all the bases, and if you need some type of extra supplementation, then you need to know who to go to to get that.
I agree. Yeah, I did have a patient actually the other day, a toddler, and the referral was for picky eating, and I saw the growth chart. She was actually gaining too much weight, so I was like, this is probably gonna be so easy. Just she's fine, eat her less of this, she'll grow out picky eating. I was wrong. Wow. She was only eating a handful of items, and that included peanut butter toast, pancakes, specific brand only, specific brand of peanut butter. She would notice if it was different, okay? Steamed rice, cheese pizza, a few pieces of fruit, a couple of packaged snacks like fig bar, but no vegetables, not one, not even cucumbers, no animal proteins, no dairy whatsoever, and that was literally it. So peanut butter toast could be twice a day, for instance. She could have a side of steamed rice. Yeah, so I was like, this is a problem. So in a situation like this, honestly, as a dietitian, there was not much I could do besides start a very comprehensive multivitamin. I actually love this brand called Ella Ola. We're not getting paid for this, by the way. I love that brand because of a few reasons. One, it's a very comprehensive multivitamin, versus some brands, Smarty Pants is very popular. It's not very comprehensive. It has very little in it. So
they put a lot of B vitamins where you're the cheap stuff.
Exactly. And so for a kid who's so picky like this, you need a lot of bases covered. So Ella Ola has everything almost. However, no multivitamin that's typical retail will have all the minerals like calcium for your bones. So that's still missing, but it's also flavorless. However, a child told me the other day, she was like, it does have a slight lemony taste. So she was like, it's in my water.
Is it liquid?
Oh, it's powder.
Oh, okay.
It's powder. And so it mixes in with liquids or like yogurt or smoothie or something very well. So I said that just try it in her water and see what you can get away with. And then for kids who are so picky, like they taste any like difference in water, I say start with like a pinch, start with a quarter of the packet and work your way up as able. Maybe it takes all day to get through one packet, but do what you need to do because that's a more severe situation where you do need interventions for sure. And so for a child like that, we did the multivitamin and then referral to feeding therapy. That may come from an occupational therapist or a speech language pathologist, depending on where you are. But that is necessary, absolutely, for weekly food exposures and helping figure out, is there something lacking in their oral skills? Maybe they're not eating certain textures because they can't handle it with how their tongue is moving or their lips are moving or whatever. And so that makes them uncomfortable. Maybe they are having pain in their throat and they need to see GI to get worked up for whatever. They may be too young to verbalize it, or they just think that's normal. Everybody has that pain, right?
Yeah.
So certain situations like that, there's only so much a dietitian can do. You have to make sure all of their nutrition needs are being met though. So there have been more severe cases, like a follower of ours. We love it when you guys reach out, by the way, like ask us questions, send us your stories, and we'll help as much as we can. But she just shared the story of her child who has regressed a lot and is now only drinking milk. That's it. Unfortunately, I have a few patients who have that's happened too. And they've definitely went from eating typical diet to losing all those foods and now only drinking milk. And so that's definitely a severe...
There's so many things that are lacking with that. It's not a good source of iron, so it can lead to iron deficiencies.
For sure.
There's also good calcium in it, but that's about it.
Yeah.
It's also not enough calories.
Yeah, so I mean, they're getting enough protein, some vitamins, but yeah, my patients who I've seen, like they all end up having iron deficiencies. So milk has to be limited to 24 ounces a day to prevent an iron deficiency in anyone usually. And so for those kids, it's like, you have to try everything. Pediatrician, I'm not a fan of in general for typical kids who eat typical diets. Yeah. But for certain kids who have severe aversions or maybe on the autism spectrum, it might be the only thing they'll eat, drink. You know, so then it's necessary. And then some kids end up getting feeding tubes because then you can put any food you want and then they continue drinking the milk that they prefer.
Yeah, it definitely just depends on the case. Obviously, there's more severe cases versus more mild cases of just, kind of textures. Like I've heard a lot of times with patients that certain kids maybe on or near the autism spectrum don't like crunchy foods or they only like crunchy foods. The texture of it is definitely a big thing that you kind of have to lean into what they like. If they only like crunchy foods and they're willing to eat carrot sticks and celery sticks, then go for it.
Yeah.
Cool.
And that may work for many kids who are not very neurodivergent, not as rigid, more flexible. But then, in these more extreme circumstances, it's like they have a hypersensitive palate or hypersensitivity to the texture and sensory input. So speaking of that, I have another patient, very young, and will only eat purees. And he's too old for purees. He's a toddler. And so this poor mom has to, only certain flavors of purees, only certain brands. Mom has made wonderful progress on actually adding crushed foods, like crushed dried foods, like graham crackers, bombas.
Got a little texture in there.
Yep. And so it's tough. So every time we meet, we're increasing something. So first of all, we've added a protein powder to his purees that mixes in well. We've added oil to his purees so that he's not on a fat-free, low-protein diet. But it's all been incremental. It's like, okay, start with a quarter teaspoon of MCT oil because it's flavorless. And then move on to avocado oil because it doesn't have a strong flavor, right? And then and then we're doing the Ella vitamin to cover his bases. So essentially we've gotten his diet from like 10% fat to now 25% fat, and we're still working up to like the 30s. So those are definitely the more severe cases. Just think about cases like this compared to your kid who just, threw the waffle on the floor. That's her perspective. So the kids who just won't eat their like salad, It's not a big deal, right?
I've also seen like a lot of videos, I will say, on like Instagram of stuff where parents, like the mom is eating at a table low on the ground and she's just eating her salad or something. And the kid comes over and is like, hey, what's that?
Yeah.
I've been meaning to try it with my son because I'm like, I want to see if it'll help because, you know, sometimes they're just like, they want what you have. You know,
Yes,
it doesn't matter
so
what it
true.
is. They just want it.
A similar concept to that that I've told parents is like, for the standard picky eating kid, on the weekend, when you guys have more time, make like random snack plate without them asking. Don't ask them what they want, okay? And include like some foods that they eat, the 2 fruits that they eat, and like the 1 vegetable that they eat, and then put like some new things on there.
Yeah,
Put like
that's a
some
good
bell
idea.
peppers, some snap peas, some cucumbers, carrots. Put a few fruits, put a few pieces of cheese, or like whatever protein they'll eat. Maybe like some deli meat rolled up. A few pieces of like a bar or whatever, and then just like
Leave it.
because like I've definitely heard from a few patients that or their parents that like she was doing homework one night and I just had like a plate of different raw veggies to munch on and she just started munching and she normally doesn't do that. I'm like, see, because you didn't tell her to.
Yes,
it's
you
just
didn't make a big deal.
They're just there.
Yeah.
It's not like make sure you eat your veggies. That will work. So again, it's making sure like on your part as a parent that they're accessible, that the kids are being given the opportunity to try new things often. Don't assume, and they don't have to like them, but like great trying them, and then make sure they have the opportunity to be in the kitchen, like helping and getting familiar and like hands-on with the foods that they usually do not eat or haven't tried.
Definitely.
Okay,
That's great.
let's go into some more stories, right?
Okay.
We've shared some, but I have some more interesting stories for you guys that maybe you can relate to, or maybe it just helps with your perspective of like, okay, maybe I should stop freaking out because my kid's not that bad, right? Okay, a couple success stories that I've had. One child got referred for a second opinion on needing a G-tube, a feeding tube, because she does have a chronic medical condition that she will always have, unfortunately, but she was too underweight for this condition. And yeah, the other medical team was essentially saying if her weight doesn't improve, you need a feeding tube. And they weren't cool with that. So we really only did a few things. It wasn't that monumental. One, stop eating with screens. Every time she ate, the 6-year-old had a tablet or the TV on. So no more screens. At the table with your family, eating at the same time. The other thing was stop letting your 6-year-old have packaged snacks from the vendor outside of the school. Every day after school, she would have that and eat a really poor dinner because she was fine. She was full.
She was full. Those Doritos did it.
So the packaged foods can really perpetuate picky eating because the flavor is so artificially enhanced. I know we've talked about this before, but it ties into this greatly. It's just so problematic for multiple things. We see this as a problem for kids struggling with obesity, for kids struggling with failure to thrive or underweight, and for the picky eating. All around bad decisions to keep packaged ultra-processed food in their diet multiple times through the week. That was literally all I did.
Really? And that did it?
I was like kind of surprised.
So she just started eating dinner?
Oh yeah, she just started eating her meals.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I was like, high five to you guys.
Where's my raise? Like,
Yeah,
where's
I gave her one.
That's so funny. The snack thing is it is so true. Like having snacks too close to mealtime, like can really mess it up so much. And sometimes you don't even think about it, but it's kind of crazy. Like they're just like, I'm still full.
Right. Yeah. It can really mess with the hunger and satiety levels too and the normal cycles. The other thing I don't recommend really ever is if your child doesn't eat a good dinner, then they can go get snacks.
After.
Nope.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't do that, guys. It's just gonna perpetuate a horrible cycle. It's a really easy trap to fall into. And as a parent, I understand you're feeling guilty because like, oh, I don't want them to be hungry. And I don't want them to go to bed hungry and whatever. I promise you, as long as your kid is not like on the autism spectrum, having severe oral aversions because of medical issues, if they're hungry, they will eat. You know?
They may wake you up at 2 a.m. though, asking for applesauce, talking about some experience. It's only happened twice.
Okay.
It's not too bad.
That's not bad. It's not every week.
No.
Okay. But yeah, I would I'm not saying to force your kid to stay at the table and finish their dinner, not at all. But if they're not, you're fine. Just sit with us till we're done hanging out. And we're all done our meals, then you can get up. Hey, you should help me wrap up your plate for later because you might get hungry later. And when you are hungry later, it's going to be the same plate. So.
Spoiler alert, this is what it is.
If kids know that they have another option that's more fun, then they're going to hold out for it.
Exactly. And the second you're like, okay, I'll go make you this, they're like, yes, I won.
The other day, I had a teenage girl who weight is fine, like growth is fine. I mean, she's like on the low end of normal. But anyways, fast food, 5 days a week, soda every single time she eats out.
That's rough.
Very rough. And the harder thing, though, is that the mom eats the same way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the mom's like, well, sometimes I will cook, but she won't eat any of the vegetables I make.
I wonder why. It doesn't taste like French fries.
And I'm like, yeah, I mean, it doesn't really. Yeah. So there's just it was pretty blunt. Like, unless you start cutting out the soda and the fast food, she's not going, like, don't have any expectations of change for the 2 meals that you make a week.
Yeah, it's also kind of like, what do you expect from me as a clinician to say when you're saying this? Like, if you want to actually make changes in your life, you have to be willing to make the change and to at least, work on cutting it down slowly. The soda, there's no nutritional benefit. There's no purpose of it. I don't get why it's such a big thing now with kids and with teens. It's like so bad. Like, I remember when Frappuccinos used to be huge. Do you remember that when we were in like middle school? Yeah. But now I feel like it's just soda. It's just, every kid's like
so much sugar. It's ridiculous.
It's crazy.
So yeah, I mean, I was pretty blunt with this mom because she was obviously not willing to change. She was just like,
to change her own behaviors.
To change her own. And I'm like, so then there's no way your child's going to change.
Yeah.
The thing is, for this patient of all patients, like, she had a liver transplant when she was a baby from something that was not preventable. Like, there was nothing parents did wrong, right? And so I said, look, like, if at that time somebody would have said, if you just feed her this, or if you, mom and dad, do this, then her liver will be healed, wouldn't you have done it? Like, no matter what it was? And she was like, yeah, hell yeah. I was like, okay, so like...
Do you want her to have another
transplant? Okay.
Oh my God.
The top reason for adults to get liver transplants today is from fatty liver disease, which is
above alcohol?
Yep.
Yikes.
It has multiple names now, by the way, but we usually know it as fatty liver. And you can get fatty liver from 2 things: too much alcohol or too much sugar. And usually the too much sugar is because of sugary drinks. Top one is soda, because of the high fructose corn syrup. It's like an abnormal amount of fructose, an abnormal amount of sugar, and the liver handles, metabolizes all of that. So it's kind of what I'm saying right now. Fatty liver disease would be in both y'all's future.
Yeah.
At some point.
That's terrible.
Most likely. Yeah. And I'm saying right now you can prevent that.
Yeah.
And they're just like, yeah, but it's just so addicting.
Yeah, that's exactly. That's why they're making the big bucks over McDonald's. I mean,
yes, like none of this.
It's the purpose.
Yeah,
they add extra sugar to it.
Who would be drinking that knowing it's just as damaging as alcohol? And would you let your 13-year-old drink alcohol? Yeah. I don't think so.
Also, like what you said before, like it changes your taste buds so much because you're used to having this like super salty, fatty, like flavor, sugary flavor, like super constantly sweet. For 3 meals a day.
Yeah. It's intense. So then
you try broccoli and you're like, no, gross.
Right. Roasted chicken is like blah.
Yeah, it's so bland in comparison.
It's constantly working against the effort you're putting into your kids eating healthy a few times a week. What is the point? If you still have the fast food and the soda in very frequently, it's undoing everything else that you're doing on the other days. Yeah.
And the biggest thing is like the parents have to be willing to make the change. Because the child most likely isn't purchasing it. They're not driving themselves at 14 to McDonald's and buying it. So
there's no way around it. Like, sorry, mom and dad, you're going to have to change.
It's unfortunate.
It is. That's the hard reality.
But it's helpful for the whole family. Like, obviously, they all don't want medical issues in the future. So 90% of the time, the family, will come around.
It can. It's just the longer you live like that, the harder it is to change, for sure. Another success story, though. That was kind of depressing. We'll see what happens. I haven't seen them back yet. Maybe they won't want to come back after that. But another success story, I had a young kid who, as a toddler, wouldn't eat any vegetables. And I think at first people hear my advice of like, just put the piece of cauliflower or the green bean on the plate. Like, just put the tiny piece on the plate and say, you don't have to eat it if you don't like it, but if you try it, that's cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so I feel like parents are like, sure, okay, they're not gonna do anything. But 2 years later, this kid eats eats vegetables at lunch and dinner. Nice. And he's only 8. Nice. Okay? What 8-year-olds are eating their veggies twice a day? Not a lot. I understand it took 2 years, but that's better than having an 8-year-old that doesn't. What would have happened if mom didn't, finally she gave in. She was like, fine, I'll do it. I'm like, it's not a huge waste of food. I'm talking about one, Yeah. So she was very grateful. She was like, okay, it finally worked.
The long haul. She was in it for the long haul.
Seriously, the consistency is so important. If you just do that here and there, don't expect any progress. Yeah. But if you guys can be consistent, kids thrive with the consistency because they know what to expect. Yeah. And eventually they can adapt way more than us.
Okay, can I tell you guys one thing? One awesome thing. So there's this book called Daniel Tiger. Daniel Tries a New Food. It's on Amazon. It's like $5. Really good book. Yeah, my son loves Daniel Tiger. It's like a really cute show, and there's a lot of books about it.
Great.
So anyway, in the course of the story, Daniel Tiger says, try a new food. It might taste good. I repeat that to him at dinner sometimes, and he repeats it back to me. He says, try a new food. It might taste good. And then most of the time he tries the new food. Even if he takes a bite of it, I'm I'm excited. I'm down. Sometimes there's a lot of books out there about, there's a vegetable book. I also read it. I'm just talking about different vegetables. So, there's different modes of learning about the vegetables without, also touching it and eating it and smelling it is great. Different. Sometimes you gotta find creative ways.
Yeah, if there's any way to plant something at home, if there's a way to go to different farms where they're having you pick your own produce, that's cool. If you can even just go to a farmer's market, that's cool.
Yeah, true.
Just the exposure is very helpful, but I love that. Making it more fun and less eat your freaking vegetable. That just doesn't work.
And more a learning process, we're going to learn where vegetables come from. This is what they look like on the stalk. I'm sure a lot of kids would tell you, we have no idea what a vegetable looks like.
Seeing the whole
in the ground.
Stalk is kind of cool. So I think that's very helpful. Yeah. Again, the expectation is not, we'll do a farmer's market trip and then all of a sudden they're eating the salad. No. But this is something you can control as the parent, something you can change, and so you should. And the rest is up to your child. And again, even if they just are willing to taste something, if they're willing to taste things, you guys are in a good place. I would be more nervous and escalating medical care if they're not even willing to try something new at all. I mean, at all. Not just sometimes parents tell me that, and I'm like, you just then told me 10 more things that they've tried in the past month. They just didn't like it. That's okay. But if they are willing to taste things and they have the opportunity to taste things, try new things, they should see you guys, mom and dad, try new things, by the way, as well, and see that mom and dad have to step out of their comfort zones too and try new things. It can be fun, and even give the child the option of pick something new that mommy's never tried and watch me try it, and I'm probably gonna hate it, but it's just encouraging them to get out of your comfort zone, try new things. It's part of growing up. So if you guys can work on that, then you will be in a much better place a year from now, 3 years from now.
Do Fear Factor Vegetable Edition.
Boy. My nieces did do a YouTube episode one time where they bought all new foods and just tried. They're 5 and 6 years old and tried them all. I'm that's so fun. Yeah. But they're adventurous eaters, so. But anything like that, if that is on your side, if your kid is willing to do that, then they will be in a better place eventually. It's not always going to look like how you want it to and on your timetable, but let some control go. Don't micromanage too much. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's not going to be Instagram perfect, and that's okay. It's real life. If they're not in a place to even try anything, that's when you get more help, and reach out to us if you guys have questions. DM us if you're unsure, is this normal? Is that, So
we're happy to help.
Yep. And then if you have more questions after this episode of more specific instances, or you want us to touch more on something specific, then totally reach out.
Message us. We're at the Pediatric Dietitian. DM us, slide in there, let us know what's going on.
We'll see you next time.
See you next time. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Pediatric Dietitian. Don't forget to subscribe and share with another parent who could use a little extra support.